you. If you're not a town resident, if you're just watching and you're here for the weekend, thanks for watching and going through something that you might not have thought about when you came up here for the weekend. But we are always trying to attract people to live here year round.
Yeah.
It's a great place. It's one of the most amazing places in New England, probably the most amazing in Maine in the winter, and then even in the summer. It's the whole area is great.
Hi, do you have a question for Garrett?
I do. I was wondering what the situation is with the carriage road access.
Sure. Great question.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll answer that. We'll let you go.
Yeah. Carriage Road, if as you may or may not be aware, is down between the town office and Tafulio's. If you drive off Route 27 and you start down that road, eventually it's a dirt road that goes all the way to the Long Falls Dam Road and back to the sort of east side of Flagstaff Lake. And it's felt like a town road for as long as the town's been around, but it's actually on Penobscot-owned land owned by the Penobscot Nation. Mm-hmm. And so if you get past the A-frames and the houses in the village down there, you'll see a gate. You'll meet a gate. It's been gated for a few years. 4 years now, I think. The Penobscot Nation has closed access to most of the trails on their property, and for a variety of reasons. We have one of the challenges for me, or things that I was asked to work on when I started last summer, was trying to resume communication with the nation to see if we can work on that. So it's understandable that somebody is wondering about the carriage road, because it's this town artery that's closed, and there's a lot of town interest in getting that reopened, along with other trails on Penobscot land. If you don't have to be a lawyer to know that people have rights in Maine over whether to open or close their property, and so they've chosen to close their property for the time being. There's a member of the Penobscot tribe, Ron Bear. He's on the Maine Hudson Trails board. He's a forester for the Penobscots, wears several hats, great guy, and he's been communicating with the town over the past few years, and hoping to. We've had some meetings with him. I met with Chief Francis last summer about what we could do to kind of get things back on positive footing. And then Mike Burgess, the Director of Economic Community Development for the Penobscot Nation, or maybe it's just Economic Development, I think is his title. He and Ron Bear have they've started getting involved in the comp plan process, and we're trying to work on, hopefully amending the town's ordinances in a way that promote more residential development on Penobscot property. So that's a positive. I've got a little bit more about that in the town report article that's coming out in a week or so. You'll have that annual town report book. So check out my intro article for a little update on that. But that's the positive news to report right now. But in terms of, I know there's a lot of interest, snowmobile, ATV, hikers, snowshoers, in those trails, in the carriage road, and it's front and center on our minds. But the fact of the matter is, it's not our decision. It's the town doesn't own it. So all we can do is just try to make sure the Penobscots know that we appreciate them, and that we're interested in working together. And so we're working on that. And I'm not at a point where I can make any promises, but we've made some offers, and we've got a dialogue going.
That's
I guess
great. It started. That's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. I hope that this time next year I can report that the carriage trail's been reopened, but I really can't promise that. But just know that we're working in earnest, and I think there's been some good faith statements from the Penobscots are trying to work with us too. There's just a variety of other concerns, and a bit of it has to do with some state legislation that we probably don't have time to get into today. Okay. But so there's a lot in the mix there, and it's something that we hope can change for the better sooner than later.
Perfect.
Yeah. Good question. Thanks for waking me up with that one. Okay, so and that's but I mean if anyone's expecting to see that on the town meeting warrant this year, it's not. There's nothing ready for a vote there. What we have done, what I could also say, is the town over time had maintain that road for the
Right.
Penobscots until it was closed. So we continue to keep funds, I think it's $12,000 a year in the budget towards that purpose, towards the highway reserve for the town. And should they reopen it, we're prepared to try to invest in improving it, really hoping to open that to the public again soon. So that's the Carriage Road question. And anyone else, any other questions, please? Yep, you're still welcome to call in.
237-6895.
So yeah, we've talked golf course, we've talked TIF, we've talked pickleball, we've talked town office. Those are probably the more exciting ones, Carriage Road. And then, yeah, a plethora. I don't know how much time you want me here that I have left, but there's a plethora of other ones to go through if you like.
Yeah, let's go through some more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got a zoning ordinance change that's about when you can, if you've got a building that doesn't make sense to rehab, can you rebuild it there? The ordinance said that the planning board can. Another call.
Hi, thanks for calling. You have a question for Garrett.
Yes. Is there any consideration for like an urgent care center or some sort of medical up here for our aging population? Thank you.
There is indeed. Excellent question. Great one. So I think Sugarloaf has said this publicly. It wasn't really public until somewhat recently, but they're exploring the hospital in Farmington had been interested in exploring doing some sort of facility up here in town. And so Sugarloaf is thinking about or is in discussion with them. They can speak to it more than I can. Again, I'm with the town. Sugarloaf's a separate private entity that occupies and is amazingly important part of the town.
Yep.
So they are in dialogue about that very thing as we speak, bringing that to town. I think what they're trying to explore is how much use the facility would get outside of the winter. So I think it's pretty clear that there's interest in that in the winter. Is there enough year-round traffic to make that viable outside of the winter? And my goal as town manager is to help cultivate the year-round community here enough that becomes a definite yes. Not because people need medical care
Right,
necessarily,
right.
but because there's enough people. And if you're accident-prone like me, I almost, I'm the guy who broke both my ankles on Scoot, one of the easier trails on the mountain. So yeah, you never know when something's going to come up. Not just urgent care, but there's a variety of even more health care or senior housing, workforce housing. Those are important things.
Truly.
And the town's, there's a nonprofit that was formed, at least in part by the town, that's really looking in earnest into housing matters too. So, but yes is the short answer to that question. Yes,
Great.
that's stay tuned. Probably in the next year or 2, 3 years, hopefully we could see something on that front.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, exciting.
Thanks for the
Okay,
question.
that's great. Yeah, these are good questions on things that I hadn't planned to cover, but I hope this also demonstrates that we are active, and I've mentioned this before on the show, but there's not a lot of rest for us. There are just so many exciting rods in the fire and things we've got cooking right now. So I was just starting, there's a zoning ordinance amendment. It's about when the planning board can give approval with certain conditions to rebuilding sort of tear down or properties that are on space that would be non-conforming or unable to comply with existing zoning. And then there's also, we're changing some terminology. There was, I think, he and her kind of references in that ordinance that we're changing to they for obvious reasons. So that's probably the most straightforward. That and the last article I'll get to are pretty straightforward. Actually, I'll just jump ahead. So that's Article 32. Article 35 is to propose taking what we have, the town and the Carrabassett Region NEMBA, CR NEMBA, Mountain Bike Club, have done a matching fund for trail infrastructure improvement for, I don't know, a good decade, I think. And that account, because we benefited from some amazing grants, that account has a decent amount in it. And so there's a proposal to put that fund, to create a capital reserve account, to put that money in for I don't want to say a rainy day, but just in the event that we're not able to keep that pipeline of grants coming,
Correct.
we might need some local funds, and so if we put it in a reserve, that will generate interest and just help that fund. So there's a question of just, is the town okay with putting that in a reserve, because that requires a town meeting vote, and I don't, that's a pretty straightforward one. The school committee is proposing, this is a little bit, more of something to chew on, creating a capital reserve as well for either in this town or surrounding towns, supporting capital needs in the school buildings that surround us. So the school buildings in Stratton, Kingfield, Strong, all are probably also, just like any aging building, needs some help. And so the school committee would like to start a reserve to build up some funds to help when the time comes to support those. So they're proposing taking $250,000 that they actually have in a overage at the moment and putting that into a reserve, and they'd like to do that annually. So the school committee could speak to that better than I can. They have their own sort of separate jurisdiction, like the sanitary district. So the town works with them, but at the end of the day, they make their own decisions on a lot of things.
Well, we're going to take a quick